Good morning, listeners. Welcome to this podcast today to Rendezvous with Muriel. But actually, I'm going to put that interview on both my podcasts because it's going to be a great interview and it applies to making you jump, giving you the courage to do your jump, and also practicing self-love because it also relates to self-love. Today, I'm interviewing Ronda Taylor. And at the age of 53, Ronda Taylor, award-winning book designer and owner of HeartWork Publishing, found herself starting a new chapter in her life, one of awareness, self-discovery, and surrendering to the unknown. A journey she has aptly named HeartWork Travels. Rated with a one-way ticket, an open itinerary, and a profound sense of gratitude, Ronda embarked on a journey throughout Central and South America that is part business, part personal, part spiritual, and entirely wholehearted. So I'm really excited because this is one story that really inspires me. That's something I want to do one day. So good morning, Ronda. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. So I'm sure our listeners are really ready to hear your story after an introduction like this, and I am too. So could you please tell us your story, starting whenever you want to start and bringing us on your journey?
Absolutely. So it was actually last November when I decided to make this change. I knew that a lot of things in my life needed to change. I was in an unhappy marriage and for many years. And I was really playing small. And so I have always had a dream of travel. And I knew that I wanted to provide volunteering services along with that. And I also knew there was a book inside me. And, you know, as a publisher and as a book designer, I have worked with many, many, many authors, and I really didn't know what that looked like at the time. However, last year was just a real big turning point for me. And so I, after many years of, you know, trying to save money and figure things out and how does this look and what's my plan going to be? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to travel? What am I going to do? You know, I just wasn't able to save the money. And so I belonged to a mastermind group called MASH. And I went one day and I went, okay, so this is going on in my life. I'm not happy. I need a change. I know that I want to travel the world. I know I need to write a book. And I know that I want to volunteer. And I know that I'm being called to Central and South America. However, these are my challenges. So give me something different to look at, you know? So it's one of those popcorn type groups where they give you feedback. And somebody said, so what if you were to just buy a one-way ticket and figure it out from there? And when they said that, it's like the whole room got quiet. I got goosebumps. I started crying. Because I was looking at it so closely that I couldn't find a solution that worked for me. And so what I ended up doing ultimately is I made a huge decision and I left my 22-year marriage. I sold everything I owned. I bought a backpack and a one-way ticket to Central America. And I didn't know what anything looked like at the time. And so this all happened within 40 days. My ticket was purchased within 2 weeks of that meeting. And I made a plan to sell everything. And that's what happened. And on November 29th, I flew to Costa Rica. And the next morning I boarded a bus to Nicaragua, and I spent my first month in the jungle, living in an ashram yogi community as a volunteer. So that kind of started my journey, and I have been traveling ever since. So I've been to 5 countries in 6 months. I'm currently in Colombia. I actually just arrived in Colombia this morning. I just got back from Peru. And I am writing a book, and I am living my dreams. And I couldn't be happier. I could not be happier. It doesn't mean that it's been easy, not even close. But there's a sense of freedom and liberty and excitement about the unknown, because I don't speak Spanish either.
Wow.
I mean, I've taken lessons since then. However, it's not conversational yet. So I'm still working on my Spanglish, as I call it.
Well, I have Franglish, so I know what you mean.
So that's kind of the kind of like the short version of how I kind of just started everything new. Yeah.
And to go back to the moment between, so you bought your airplane ticket and it took you some time. How you bought your airplane ticket, how many weeks before you were supposed to leave?
So my ticket was purchased within 2 weeks after that meeting, and it was probably a month before I left.
So what I always like people to understand is that you make a decision, but it doesn't mean that the fear is not going to come up. Did the fear come up between the time that you purchased the ticket and the time that you left? Did you have thoughts like, what am I doing? Oh my God. And what if it's crazy? And what if it doesn't work? Did you have thoughts like this or not at all?
Every single day. Every day. But a lot of those thoughts were coming from other people, like my family, who wanted to put a label on it. Oh, you're having a midlife crisis, or, it's like they needed a label. And for me, I just wasn't happy. And I really, really wanted to be happy. And I wanted my husband to be happy. We were not happy together. And that's actually one of the beautiful things, is that he has completely supported me on this journey. There wasn't anger and animosity. He has provided me that emotional support and that level of security as well. Like if I'm caught in a dangerous situation, which has happened, I can call him for any reason, and we're still friends. We just simply have recognized that it wasn't working. And, but fear comes up all the time. And, that little inner voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you bring yourself back to center? Do you have a mantra? Do you have a thought, or is it just breathing? How do you go back to your center?
I do several things. Every day I meditate. And part of that practice also looks like, I'm certified in Reiki, so I do myself Reiki healing every morning. I use crystals and essential oils, and it's like I just lay out my space in the morning. I have a favorite set of oracle cards that I really love to use, and that's part of my practice. And then the other piece of that is I do have a mantra, like a self-love mantra that, where I just hold myself and I hold my heart and I just tell myself that I do love myself. And, it's really short. Can I just share it?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So I say every morning, I love myself. I truly love myself. I love all of me. I am perfection and I am imperfection. And I'm okay with that.
That's full acceptance.
And I say that 3 times every morning, and I have my hand on my heart. I usually have my other hand on my belly. And it's like, I just give myself that love every single day, because you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. But it's important to keep that love alive.
Yes.
It's too important, because you're going to have the good days and you're going to have bad days.
Yes, but don't you find that since we started having to have spiritual practice, whatever you call it, practice on a daily basis, it becomes, I know that for myself and for the people that I either coach or even some friends around me, when you start your day like this, it becomes much more easier to have a day that is balanced, even amongst difficulty, and your dominant emotion during the day is still positive. Positive with ups and downs, but most of it is positive. Don't you find that?
Right, because, you know, I hear an echo in my, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My headset.
Okay. So, I'm hearing it. Are you hearing an echo?
I don't.
Okay. Must be my computer. I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Is it better with you? Can you hear like this?
Distracting me.
Okay. I was saying that when we start having a spiritual practice or self-love practice, we tend to have a most positive dominant emotion throughout the day,
Yes.
independently from whatever happens.
Yes, exactly. And the most important thing for me is reminding myself to always choose love. Because when fear comes up, you lose the love. It can't coexist. So I stay focused on the love when I'm experiencing the fear.
Yeah.
Because it just makes the process easier.
It does. And it's just, I think, remembering that life has your back, the universe has your back, and it's just a question of realigning with that. And sometimes it's not that easy, but when you consciously make the effort to do it often, it becomes easier and easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. And it does take practice.
Yes, like everything else, it's like a muscle almost.
Yeah. Yes, you have to be consistent because, you know, part of loving yourself, part of that self-love is loving yourself no matter what. So you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have fear. But it's so important to just continue to love yourself through it. And that's what works for me. Is reminding myself that regardless, I am always love.
And how does this journey even makes it stronger for you? What did it change in the way? I'm sure it changed a lot. And I know we had a conversation yesterday about it, but
you know, yes, self-love has become a bigger part of my life than ever before, because I thought that I knew self-love when I began this journey. And the way I know it now to be, it was very different. I was beating myself up a lot. You know, just like you asked me, you know, before I even left, did I have doubts? Did I have fears? Did I question my ability? And even though I was very steadfast in my decision, I knew without a doubt that this is what I needed to do. I knew that I needed to take this trip. So it wasn't about that, but it was more about what am I going to do right versus what am I going to do wrong?
oh,
And so, so every time I was met with a challenge, with an obstacle, I would kind of start beating myself up. And when I started to look at it instead as a lesson, that's when everything changed for me. That's when I gave myself permission to make mistakes and to love myself no matter what. Because traveling solo, at the age of 53, well, now I'm 54, it is a journey all in itself. And I make mistakes. And the important thing to remember for me, what is, there's a responsibility factor here. And I'm the only one responsible for my outcome. I am 100% responsible for everything that happens to me. I don't have anybody to point the finger at when I make a bad choice, or if I hurt myself or whatever. And I've had many things happen to me on this journey. And it always comes back to, at the end of the day, loving myself for everything that happened and giving myself permission to be vulnerable and to feel, like to literally just be in that process, to be in that moment and just allow myself to work through it instead of trying to fight it or call it something that it's not, or allow fear in.
You mentioned right and wrong earlier in your sentence. How does it apply to a journey like this? Because is there even a right and wrong? I can understand that you can make a mistake that can be costly, either in money or if you fall or something. But what about the right and wrong? Does it even relate? Because you're doing a self-discovery.
It's true. It's complete it's self-discovery, it's self-awareness, and self-love is a byproduct of that. And so when I was looking at it as right and wrong, that's when I wasn't able to tap into my authenticity. I wasn't able to love myself. I wasn't able to forgive myself. And forgiveness is one of the biggest things that is working for me through this self-love process. And one of the other things that I have learned is I've learned how to trust myself.
That's huge.
You know, I was always second doubting myself all the time. And, second guessing my decisions. And, even while on this trip, I would wake up some days and go, what have I done? Where am I at? Because, even with the traveling, it's like, I left my home. Like, we moved out of our house. I sold everything. And so for a while I struggled with, I don't have a home. Where is my home? And in this self-love process, what I realized is home is where my heart is. So I wake up every day now knowing that wherever I am home.
But it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to live it, like you're doing.
Absolutely.
Because we can say it here, but until we are really dropping everything and practice non-attachment, we can't really say that we understand it.
Right. Well, self-love is about breaking free from that self-judgment. And it's embracing the unconditional feeling of love, the appreciation, and acceptance. It's being on a journey. It's not a destination.
Yeah.
Self-love is about the journey, because it's a journey that should never end.
It's a verb, and some days you're good at it, some days you're bad at it, and so it's really something that is in motion and evolving.
Yes, every day, every moment of every day.
But I don't know, based on how I perceive it, the right and wrong, it's judgment. Because no matter what choice you're going to make, like today you're going to get up and you're going to say, I'm going to go to, I don't know, Argentina or wherever you're going to end up, there is no right and wrong. It's just another option, and which is going to another result. And by you living what you're living now, you got rid of the right or wrong.
Yes, I did. Absolutely. Because every day is a choice for me. Every day is a new choice, because I don't plan my travels far in advance. Certainly never more than a month. And I'm usually living every 2 weeks, figuring out what my plan is. And so there can't be a right or wrong with the way I'm doing this. And, there are things where it's like, well, okay, maybe I should have waited another week, or, it's little things. There's nothing there's nothing on a grand scale that I can say I've done that's been wrong or right.
And the fact of traveling alone, I'm sure you met amazing people, and because you travel alone, you connect more with them than if you had somebody on the side that you were interacting with.
It's very true. I have met some amazing people. In fact, my book is about what female entrepreneurship looks like in developing countries. So while I'm volunteering, I'm actually volunteering with women business owners, and I'm living with them, and I'm working with them side by side, and I'm learning how they run their businesses and what that looks like in developing countries, because you know, it's not the same as in America. We have many, many, many privileges.
Yes.
And one thing I have learned for certain is to never take anything for granted, and that includes these women. So I have met amazing people in general, and but the women that I have been interviewing for my book, I am learning so much from, because their definition of success is so different from our definition, and they're practicing their own levels of self-love.
What does it? Can you name one or two differences? Because here, success in America, it's really linked to money also, to material things. How different is it there?
First of all, they're not material. Success to them has nothing to do with money. It's all about family to them. And it's about taking care of themselves and their family and their children. And the other thing that I found really interesting is entrepreneurship, like for us, it's like the American dream. You know, you want to start a business, and for many of these women that I've interviewed, being an entrepreneur is simply a way of life. It's survival.
Yeah.
Because there aren't jobs available. And so they create things to sell. They make tortillas, or I interviewed a woman who, she's a shoe vendor. She didn't have her own store. She literally just had boards hanging on the outside of a storefront with these little pegs that, you know, she just took her small amount of money and bought a very small inventory of shoes. And that was her business, because she didn't know anything else.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, it looks very different. Some things are like in like the cities that are more forward thinking, like the bigger cities. Like right now I'm in Bogota, Colombia, and Medellin has a very, very large like an expat community, and so they have a lot of like Spanish, English language, cultural events and things like that. And so I've really been able to tap into their networking and their groups, and they've got, you know, a really beautiful group, women business owners of Medellin. And so it looks different in other countries. It was it was a lot different in Central America than what I'm finding in South America, where things are a little more forward thinking, but I'm also in larger cities.
And so you mentioned that your Spanish is not fluent yet. Do you have translators when you interview those women for your book, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I took 10 days of Spanish when I was in Granada, Nicaragua. After a month in the jungle, realizing that I needed to learn something. And it's been really interesting. Yes, I've had translators, and they literally have just appeared out of nowhere. It's like there were moments when I just thought the interview wasn't going to happen because they didn't speak English, I didn't speak Spanish, and literally people have just walked in at the right time who speak English and offer. It's been amazing. I call them my angels, because every interview I have wanted to have with these women, solutions have been found every single time. I've never been able to say, I'm sorry, we can't do an interview because I don't have a translator, or I don't have a solution for this. Angels are showing up everywhere.
Between the fact that you cried when you were at MASH and you realized that you were going to buy your ticket, and the fact that you attract whatever you need for your interviews is always provided, that's when you really know you're on purpose. You are living your purpose, because that's magical almost.
I agree. I have met amazing women on this journey, and I have some really, really beautiful stories that I'm so excited to share in my book. And what I really love most about those interviews is that these are women that I really got a chance to know, because I did volunteer with them, and I learned how they ran their businesses, and they welcomed me into their families, into their homes, and I got to know them, and it was it's really, really been a beautiful experience.
What is it different the way women relate to women there? Because here in America, I've seen, the people who are heart-centered, it's different. But a lot of people, especially women, are somehow at war with other women, especially when they have all those images of you need to be perfect if you want to attract someone to love. So you feel like a lot of women are afraid of the competition and they don't really connect. Is it different where you're traveling?
Yes, it is different, but not in the way that you would think, because a lot of like in Central America, most of the women that I interviewed, they were in very small towns and villages, and there isn't a lot of competition. It's like everyone just helps one another, and so they're that kind of like cutthroat mentality it doesn't exist, which was really beautiful to experience, because they all just support one another. But on the flip side of that, they don't have support groups like we have support groups. We've got Facebook and, mastermind groups, and we have all these things. They don't necessarily have those things available to them. And most of them don't even run their businesses online. I won't say most, some of them didn't run their businesses online. So there is a little bit of difference there, especially between Central America and South America, because I'm experiencing something even different here, because it is more modernized. But with the groups and the women and the meetings that I've been attending, that level of competition isn't there.
That's great.
You don't feel like you have to compete. Yeah. And they want your knowledge. It's like they soak up what I know, and I love that I can help them in that way.
What is the main thing or the thing that you cherish the most that they taught you? Several of them, because I'm sure there are several.
Yeah, there have been, it comes down to love. It just comes down to love and acceptance, because what I've learned from them is it's not about the money. It's about, because success for them is, there's a level of humility. It's just, they just want to be able to provide for their families. And one of the biggest things that I have walked away from, besides learning how to take nothing for granted, is I've experienced a lot of humility.
Wow.
You can't help but identify with that when you see how others live. Hot showers for me are a luxury.
Yeah.
They're not common. And indoor showers aren't common. And washing machines, my clothes get a little treat when I get to wash my clothes in a washing machine. So it's like, I've learned to take nothing for granted. And the way of life, especially in Central America, is very different. And it's very humbling. Very, very humbling.
Wow. Yeah, we don't realize.
This has allowed me to allow myself to be authentic. It's like you can't experience something like this and walk away as the same woman. I am more authentic and vulnerable than I think I've ever been in my life.
And you will probably be changed forever, because you can't unlearn what you've learned. That's impossible.
Right? You can't unlearn it. You can't unsee it. And I certainly would never undo it. Never.
So so you're going to finish that book. Mm-hmm. And I suppose you don't have very long-term projects now. You're really living in the present, or do you?
I don't have anything long-term. No, I'm living like I am. I'm very fortunate and grateful to have. I've been contracting with other publishing companies as a book designer for a number of years, and when I asked them about their thoughts about me doing this trip, traveling, they were fine with it, because I was living in Las Vegas and they were in Colorado, so we were already working virtually. So I got their blessing, and that made everything doable for me. But I don't know when projects are coming up. You know, they'll send an email and say, hey, I have a book project coming up next week or in the next 2 weeks. And so when that happens, I stop volunteering, and I kind of just set up shop in a city I find an apartment, usually through Airbnb, and I just work. I just stay focused on my work. And then when I'm done, then I go back to volunteer projects and really doing what I love to be. I mean, I love to be working too, but I'm really enjoying the connection. I'm loving the connection with people.
How are you able to, because if you're in the jungle and the projects happen or needs to happen in a week and you don't know about it, how did it happen?
No, everything is scheduled. It's like my clients and I will work out a schedule. They're like, okay, in 2 weeks, I'm going to have this book project. And I already know by now how long it takes me to do a project. So we just schedule out that time. We just kind of create a little agenda of what that looks like. And then when the book project's over, then I go back but they always keep me in the loop. So I always know a week or two in advance of new projects coming my way. And that allows me to do both.
Yeah, because it's really unusual for somebody to be able to really live a dream and at the same time stay present in their professional life.
Right? Yes.
So you're very fortunate. That's great.
Well, and what I will say too is that it requires me to be present always, whether I'm working or volunteering or traveling. It's like I always have to be present. I mean, well, what I'll say is being present has served me the best. I'll put it that way. Because it's all part of it. I mean, I would be missing out on so much if I wasn't staying present, because there's just been some really beautiful experiences that I've had where you can't help but be present.
So right now, I'm sure you have this feeling of aliveness, and because you're present most of the time.
Yeah.
What are you excited about today?
I am excited about, right now I'm in Bogota, and I'm going to Medellin next week. And I'm excited about going back to Medellin because I love that community. It's a very active community. And one of the things I miss the most while I'm traveling is connection with people. Yeah. And so, you know, when you're traveling solo, it's just you. And so my first trip to Medellin, I was struggling with being alone. And I finally just went, you know what, I'm just going to go outside of my comfort zone, and I'm just going to start looking for a group. And because, you know, I'm a little insecure about my level of Spanish, I knew that what I needed was more practice. And so I found a language exchange, Spanish English language exchange group. And I just attended. And that evening, I was embraced and welcomed by an entire table full of Spanish speaking people who also spoke a little bit of English. And, you know, we practiced, but it's like those connections that night turned into another invitation to another networking event that was going on the next night. And then when I went to that meeting, I was introduced to the women entrepreneurs of Medellin, and then went to that meeting. So it's like, it like just blossomed into this beautiful experience of connection. And so Medellin for me represents that connection. It feeds my heart and makes it happy. And I get to be with people again.
That's, yeah, it's
that
important.
are like-minded, which
Yes.
is really, really important for me.
Yes, it is important for me too. I don't want anybody, I don't want any lower vibrations in my life.
Right.
So to go back to this, go ahead.
I was just going to say they have a large digital nomad community as well. And so that keeps me connected with, you know, being able to work online.
That's amazing. I love the fact that we have online communications nowadays.
Oh, yes. I wouldn't be able to do this otherwise.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
To go back on self-love, because that's one subject that I always approach in my interviews, because people are very confused about it. They don't know how to approach it. They don't know what it means. What is your definition of self-love?
Well, it's kind of, you know, what I was saying before. It's breaking free from self-judgment.
I'm losing your sound.
You're losing the sound? Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Oh. So yeah, it's what I, you know, it goes back to what I was saying before about embracing all of you all the time. And but it's also keeping the belief or holding the belief that you are a valuable and worthy person, that you're worthy of love, that you deserve all that you desire in your life. And so when you break free from that self-judgment and you really learn how to love and accept and appreciate yourself, it takes it to an entirely different level.
Yeah.
And but consistency is the most important piece of that, because, you know, your inner voice is always going to talk.
Yes.
It's always going to criticize. It's always going to, you know, there's always going to be something there. But you have to, you just have to remove all of that. And like I said before, if you always choose love, then there's no room for fear.
True, because you can't focus at two things at one time.
No, it cannot exist together.
And that part of ourselves, I call mine, I even named it so I can address it when it's there and it's not serving me. My cat is coming. I called it like Professor I Know It All, because it's that's how I see it.
Right.
And I think even that I address with love, because it's a part of myself that tries to protect me. It's not doing that just to be mean with me, but it's like, oh my God, no, you don't need to do that, and you can't be that, and I'm like, I'm okay. You can go sit down. We're together. I'm okay. And it's true that it's gonna be there, less and less. But when you acknowledge it, it loses its grip on you. It's when it's creeping on you that it's really dangerous.
Absolutely.
And so I'm sure what you were just mentioning, this kind of self-love is playing a role in your adventure today. What role does it play? How does it help you?
It allows me to be grateful for everything I've experienced, and every day is different. You know, it's I still have bad days. I still have sad days. And because I just allow myself to feel it instead of blocking it, trying to shut it off, trying to shut it down, it's like when I allow myself to be vulnerable, I think that is one of the greatest acts of self-love you can do for yourself. Is allow yourself to just feel it and live it and experience it. Because otherwise you're, you know, when you don't, then you're back on that side of fear.
And you can't heal what you can't feel. That's impossible.
Yes. Yes. So at the end of every day, I always write down what I'm grateful for. And I make that a part of my self-healing piece too, because like I said, not every day ends perfectly, and that's okay.
Yes.
Because tomorrow's a new day. And, you know, I have this quote that I have on a meme, and it says, never be afraid to fall apart. It is an opportunity to change your story and start anew. Yeah. And it's so true, because falling apart is part of the process. And so I give myself permission every day to change my story, because that's growth.
That's nice. That's a nice sentence. I give myself permission every day to change my story, because sometimes we have loyalties to stuff that don't serve us because we think we need to be loyal to them because we've been practicing that for so long, and our families have been practicing that for so long.
Yes.
There is no need.
That's right.
And so what are one or two practices of self-love that you can share with us? That so you have a morning routine.
I have my morning routine, and then, you know, the second piece is I do my self-love mantra. Mm-hmm. But, you know, what I really love to do is I love to just go explore. So I always want to teach myself something new every day, whether that's walking somewhere or learning a new Spanish word. It's like, it's just constantly learning something new every single day and being grateful for everything that comes my way. Because that right there, you know, when you feel that gratitude, it comes from your heart.
Yes.
It's like, that is a love beingness, a love feeling. And so when I find myself maybe criticizing myself for something that didn't go right that day, I go right back to, no, it was not right or wrong. And I refuse to see it as anything but a learning lesson now.
Yeah.
And so I've had lots of lessons. Boy, have I learned some lessons.
So you're even grateful for the difficult things and the challenges.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the scorpion sting. I'm grateful for being attacked for my cell phone. I'm grateful that my luggage got lost in the middle of the Caribbean, because it all brought me to a better understanding. And it also reminded me, those were lessons in being present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those things that happened to me, everything that happened was a matter of when were actually all instances of when I wasn't being present.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's,
it's like, you know, my mind was off something else. Yeah. I was pulling weeds in the jungle and I wasn't paying attention. Scorpion got my hand. You know, I'm walking in San Juan del Sur with a very heavy backpack on my back, and I was looking up at the buildings, looking at all of my, instead of looking down where I was walking on a cobblestone street, and I tripped and I fell and I ended up fracturing my hand.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, when I was attacked from my cell phone, I had it in my hand. I wasn't paying attention. So it's like, being present has been the biggest, you know, lesson when it comes to things not going right.
the thread of your journey, like the main lesson? Wow. So if you wanted to leave our listeners with something, some advice, some aha moment, what would you like to share with them before we conclude?
You know, what I will say is anyone can do what I'm doing, and anyone can practice self-love and be vulnerable. And, you know, but it's really about taking the chance every day, or making the choice, I should say, to rewrite your story, because it's a choice.
Yes.
Every single moment of every single day. You don't have to keep the same story. You can change it whenever you want to. And I changed my story, and now I'm living my dreams out loud. I am making dreams come true. It's like Machu Picchu was like on the top of my bucket list for years.
Wow.
I went last month. That was an act of self-love.
It is.
Yeah. And it was the greatest experience ever.
And it doesn't have to be as drastic. It can be, if that's your desire, but it can also be the decision to stop any criticism. That's also a life-changing journey.
Absolutely.
Because people, or sometimes they don't do anything because they have the impression that they have to be a super big hero, or they have to leave everything behind. It doesn't have to be. It can be whatever you feel it needs to be for you.
That's right.
So that's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, because, you know, this journey for me, it's like I'm just a woman who just wanted a change in my life. Now, I didn't plan on it being so drastic. That was not the original plan. And that's how it turned out. And
but you listened to your heart.
I did listen to my heart for the first time, because I used to live in my head all the time.
Yeah.
But I listened to my heart for the first time. And what I really love is that I'm evolving into the woman that I always wanted to be, the woman that I always thought I could be. It's like I'm evolving into her now. And
do you even know who she is, or do you still, because sometimes we don't know who she is yet. You're transforming, but you don't know who she is yet. Do you?
I'm evolving. I am a work of progress every day. And what I can tell you is that I'm so much closer now than I've ever been. And I'm getting very, very clear on my life purpose and what I should be doing and who I should be doing it with. And it's really been a beautiful experience. It's really been a beautiful experience. Yeah.
That's very inspiring. I want to thank you for taking part in the interview. Really, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're inspiring me, because that's one thing that I know I will do one day when my kids are going to be grown. And it's really beautiful.
Yeah. And I do want to say too, is I would not have been able to do this. Now my kids are all grown. They're all adults now. I've got 4 grandkids, and I would not have been able to do this without their 100% love and support. So I did talk to my kids first and say, this is what I want to do. And every one of them said, go do it. Go do it. It's what you've wanted to do your whole life. So go live your dreams. So that made the decision easier as well.
And what is beautiful too is that you're not only changing your story, you're changing theirs at the same time.
Yeah. It's like, and this was all part of my dream, is like, this is part of the legacy I'm wanting to leave for my children and my grandchildren. It's like, I want them to know that they can pursue their dreams. They can dream as big as they want, and it can all come true. It all depends on how you look at it, and it requires action.
Yes. And trust.
So, so they're seeing me. It's like, and thank God for technology, because, we video chat all the time. Yeah. So it's not like Gma is any place different than before, except now they get postcards from all the cities that I travel to. So they
That's
always
cool.
like where Dima has traveled. So, and that's fun for me too.
Thank you, Rhonda. I wish you a wonderful journey.
Thank
The
you.
rest of the day. And I'm sure I want to see you when you come to Vegas. That's I want to have coffee with you in front, like in person.
Yeah, it'll be in a few months. I have to put my foot down because this journey started as 90 days and then 3 months and 6 months, and now I'm working on the 9-month mark, but I'll be back in August.
Great. So thank you, everyone. We'll be back in another week. And if you or someone you know would like to be interviewed, contact me on my website, datelikeafrenchwoman.com. And I wish you a wonderful week. Thank you. Bye, Rhonda.
Thank you. Bye.
If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. And for questions, information, or to book a free 30-minute introductory coaching session, please visit datelikeafrenchwoman.com.